I made a shocking discovery today when I was hanging out over at MEUK's Discord server.
Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, did you hear what I said? It's all about
mental exercise.
What, for perpendicular?
No, the whole thing, not just the perpendicular.
Well, there's no need to go too far until we establish the basics, right?
Yeah, but I think we are on the same idea what the basics are.
That you
It's
can't
how
measure
you-
an angle to a curve. So,
You can but you can measure an angle to something that is tangential.
well, that's a straight line. I mean, you
Yes,
completely
sure.
agree. Yeah, yeah.
I agree. I think you actually understand what I mean when I say that the two plums are not parallel. I don't mind it being parallel if it is, but it has an impact. If it's parallel, or if it's measured to be parallel or not, it has an impact on what we live on.
Sorry. If it's measured to be parallel.
If it's measured to be parallel or not, two different measurements.
So how would...
You can get two different results of the measurement.
What are we measuring? We agreed on we're measuring whether a line is perpendicular.
Now we are measure the perpendicular line. You can measure if it's perpendicular, yeah, if you create a line, but if you create something that is perpendicular, then it is perpendicular by definition.
Okay, so
What
if
I'm
by
talking about
definition
to-
it's right angles, right?
Yes, but what I'm talking about now are two plumb.
Yeah.
You understand that? Two plumb. And what if they are not parallel?
What if the plums aren't parallel?
Two plums at two different places.
Yeah, are we imagining things now, or
Why is that something you need to imagine? You can just do that in real life.
you can put two plumb lines? I know, quite aware of builders being able to put a plumb line at a different position. Like, let's say when a builder is building a wall, then he uses the plumb line on one side of the wall, but he also uses it on the other wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
can do
thing,
that.
same, both vertical.
Yeah, but you think they are parallel, those two plumb.
I think
So you understand me.
I think they're both vertical. Yes.
You think they are parallel.
Geometric straight lines. They are both
Bev.
vertical.
Bev, I asked you a very specific question. Are
Yes.
those two plumb parallel?
They are both vertical. Yes.
Are they parallel, Bev?
Yes. Yes. They are. Why would they not
Thank
be?
you. Thank you.
Why-
That's what you think. Yeah.
Why would
Okay,
they
so
not
that's
be?
Why would they be? Why is there a
they're
rule
vertical,
that they
and
have
then you
to
go down to the floor, and there will be a horizontal that extends out. That is perpendicular to that vertical.
be? Those two
Now,
plums has
where
nothing
that
to do with each other.
horizontal intersects the other vertical, the horizontal and the vertical are perpendicular. That means they're at
Bev.
right angles.
But those two plums has nothing to do with each other. They are two separate plums.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do they have some kind of interaction between themselves?
They're both
Create
vertical.
the two plums. Yes, but they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
You create- you
they're
measure-
both but they've
you
got the
create
same
the two
name,
plums.
haven't they?
Yeah, but I'm using plum to
And both
be
of
sure
them-
that you.
Both of them are tools, right, called plumb bobs that establish
Yeah.
a vertical.
Yes,
Yes.
you can call them vertical, yeah. But why do they have to be parallel?
Well, do you want me to tell you again, right? The horizontal that is perpendicular to the bottom of them, right, 90 degrees, when that extends out and you drop another vertical to that horizontal, it'll be 90 degrees as well.
But that's not a plumb. You didn't create a plumb. You just created another vertical with a horizontal from the first
with
one.
the plumb, I did do it in reality, right?
You did, yeah. You said you create another vertical with that horizontal.
okay.
That's not the.
I'll give you.
That's not the same.
I
as,
will give you a practical example, right? We're gonna get a piece of canal, bit of canal, the water, and that's level. We're gonna drop a plumb bob down to the water at each end. Okay.
Is the water level already? It's the water perfectly flat and horizontal.
Yeah.
There's no curvature to the water.
Yep.
Well, then what's the point of doing a measurement if you're already assuming it? What if is curving? How would you notice that?
To show you that it is horizontal, like that's what I say.
You're just assuming that it is.
I'm telling you it is, and then I'm going to show you that it is. Now, what would you like? Would you like logical, geometric, or practical proof?
I want you to create an experiment where you don't determine whether it's flat or not beforehand. You already assumed
you
it
want
was
me
flat
to make an experiment for measuring something? Do you?
Yes. Measuring
how
whether
do
the
you
plums are parallel
experiment with a measuring device, please? What is it we are manipulating? Are we going to manipulate the measurement size or something? What is it?
You can manipulate the distance between the observations, for example.
I can manipulate the distance. Can I not just measure that distance?
No, but you said you wanted to.
How do I manipulate it then?
By moving the whatever.
Just measuring a different distance.
Yes.
But that's just measuring. That's just geometry, right?
It's just geometry. It's measurement.
Yeah.
It's measurement.
Yeah. Geometry. Where's the experiment bit come in?
It's the fact that you're doing measurements.
Oh, so anytime I measure with a ruler, you best tell some people. I mean, is that science?
It doesn't really matter what you want to call it.
Well, you're calling it an experiment.
You can call it that if you want to.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't call it an experiment. I'd be silly to call it an experiment.
Then don't call it experiment.
I'll just call it geometry then, what it is, right?
Sure, call it geometry.
The practical use of geometry in reality.
What do you mean by practical use of geometry?
I mean, like measuring the Earth, right? Outside, when you are measuring a distance, you are measuring the Earth. So geometry literally means Earth measurement. So doing geometry, the practical use of it is like called surveying.
Yes, you could call it that.
Yeah.
But
we established verticals and horizontals, right?
The first question I asked you, if you're gonna, how would you go about establishing whether the plums are parallel or not?
Well, you see, when we get our auto level, right, and we get the measuring stick has to be placed in a vertical position in order for you to measure correctly. That's because it's the shortest path, that vertical, right? Shortest path between horizontals, two horizontal parallel planes. That's what you are effectively measuring when you measure a distance through an auto level. That vertical. Now that's, you could say that you have to hold the measuring rod plumb, couldn't you? So that's sort of what you're doing when you get in that measuring rod. You are making a plumb. And you do that at each end of the horizontal. Now, are you saying one of them isn't actually vertical, or one of them isn't actually perpendicular to the measuring line that you're doing? the crosshairs? Or are you saying neither of them are, because the point where the level is the only point that the vertical and the horizontal are perpendicular? Oh, sorry, the plumb and the level? I don't know. You sort of get confused with this thing, Funk, right?
How would you establish whether those two plumbs, if they are not parallel, how would you establish that, Bev?
If they're
How
not
would you measure?
parallel,
Yeah.
why would you want to be doing that? I just said that there's a horizontal and the two lines at each end of them. Right,
Well, so you're
that's
just
what you're
holding,
doing. You are measuring the distance in between horizontal planes. Now, what is it you're trying to say? That the perpendicular to the horizontal won't be vertical, or it won't be plumb, or it won't be perpendicular? Please explain.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
if you're holding two plumbs at two different points, how would they have no interaction between each other. They have nothing to do with each other.
Yep.
You can't just draw a line from one to the other and say, see here, they are connected.
Yep.
You have to, you're holding two plumbs at two different points.
Yep.
What if there is something causing them? Let's say it's a magnet pulling on the one of the plumbs. So it's not really parallel. Or there can be something else causing it. Whatever you want to whatever you want.
Yep.
If they are not, how would you measure that?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yes.
It's an interesting question. Is Cleary in it? Because
your whole reality is based on
Cleary
this.
likes these questions, right? So
Yeah,
there's
it's your
one.
whole
There's one
reality
to
is
remember
based
that,
on this
Cleary.
one.
How would you measure the plumb lines not being parallel? I mean, how would you go about it?
Yeah,
Have you got any idea?
How do you measure curvature? Would that be with the
Yeah, I
Bill,
put it
I'm
on the
asking
list
you
of
guys.
questions that the ballers are giving us, right? Funk's just adding another one to that list.
It should be.
How would you measure? Right, well, I'll give you a problem, right? Now, I think you've got a guy called Jeff who lives in Maine. That's maybe your best guy for you to go and talk to. But I'll give you a hand at the problem that you have, right? If you are going to try and measure this angularly, right, you are going to come across a problem, because the vertical and the horizontal are your two reference frames that you're going to use to measure angles from and to. And
Yes.
at each point, the vertical will be perpendicular to the horizontal.
Yes,
Right?
but that's
So you have
each
nothing
point,
to
yeah.
measure, because there is only a 90-degree angle between those two. Right, so
that is
there's
at
problem
individual
number
point.
one that you have, right?
What's the? I don't see the problem with that.
Do you not?
No, you have two plumbs at each point, and you create a perpendicular from those
Yeah,
two.
well, because the
That's
fact
how
that
you.
they're
That's how
both
the instrument works.
because they're
That's how the
both
instrument works.
perpendicular at the point that they're at, right? And you are going to be measuring to the horizontal. There's nothing for you to measure to. So the question that you should be asking, right? Because geometrically, you're talking about 90 degrees, and they'll always be 90 degrees. So you're never going to measure anything other than 90 degrees.
Yeah,
So
but,
the question you should be asking is the horizontal a straight line? I think that's the question you should, in order to answer your perpendicular question. That's where I would come at it from. But I mean, that's up to you.
You already said it's a straight line.
It is a straight line, the horizontal.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
But you never answered me the question. You seem to say it's impossible to do this.
No. I would do it like I've said. You asked me how I would do it, and I'm telling you. I'm telling you now. The way I would do it would be to prove that level is horizontal, and it is the same straight line, because then any plumb bob dropped to that level would be perpendicular to it. And it makes perfect geometrical sense. and it even comes with a proof within Euclid, which is the geometry that we're using. Now, if you want to go beyond that and talk to your friend, possibly Jeff, or maybe even Jesse, but any one of those surveyors that you have as a friend, I mean, did you say you were a pathway? You were speaking for them, I think you said. I think you seen some of the videos, and you had the ability to speak for these surveyors. Was that you?
I don't know what you're talking about. But
Was it? It might have been somebody else, but I thought
I don't
that's
know.
what you said the other day.
I don't know. It's not. I don't think that was me.
But it was you that said you didn't know anything about surveying or that much about geometry, right?
I know a lot. I know a lot about geometry. I don't know so much about surveying.
Okay. Well, surveying basically just is the practical use of the... So think of everything within geometry that you could practically use. And
But why
you'd be halfway
when
there.
I read on surveyor sites, people talking about surveying, they are stating that they have to take into account the curvature of the Earth.
How do you know how
over
they do
longer
that?
distance.
Do they
I
do they
read
tell
some-
you?
Yeah, I read something about it. Like today, we use as reference points to establish that because it's already established in most cases.
That would be
Funk,
the
you kinda
datum.
broke up.
Yeah, the
Kinda
datum.
broke up then, Funk. I couldn't quite hear you. Surveyors need to take into account perspective compression. Is that what you said?
No, I said the curvature of the Earth.
What's that?
That's the Earth curving.
Yeah. Do you know how to measure it?
Yeah, I have an idea how it's
Oh.
possible to measure.
Cool.
I did present it last time. I'm not sure if I want to present it every time I'm in here. Like it's a surprise what you're gonna see, because you know what I'm gonna present. So I think we can
I
just.
don't think we've ever had anybody in here that's shown us a method of how to
It's
measure the curvature of the
it's
water
presented
level
here every time.
specifically.
It's presented here every time I'm on here. It's presented
You
either by
I
me or
keep
somebody else.
keep hearing that. I mean, who was it that said that? Jem said that yesterday as well. He said he kept telling me the answer to a question, but I kept asking him it, and he didn't tell me the answer. He just said he'd already told me, and it was unable
Bev.
to tell me again because he'd already told me once. But I
Bev,
can't
have you-
remember him telling me.
Have you asked yourself this question? Everybody, when you talk, almost everybody else you're talking to, seem to understand how this works.
There's a
At
consensus,
least,
I guess.
also me, right?
Yeah.
And
Can
and
we see
everybody
this
else is
survey that
wrong,
was performed,
you.
please?
Bev,
I wasn't.
Bev,
I
I
wasn't
asked
aware.
you a question.
I was never asked to complete this survey.
Bev, have you thought about how everybody else is thinking you are wrong, and everybody else say that they understand
I don't. You know what?
how this
I'm
works?
so self-centered. I don't really care what anybody else thinks about me.
No, I'm not saying
maybe-
what everybody. I'm
maybe
not
one of my
talking about
traits,
what anybody else.
Maybe
Bev,
one of my worst
you
traits.
twisted it right away. You twisted it right away. I never said what everybody else think about you. I
Oh.
said what everybody else think about how these principles work.
Oh, what principles?
It has nothing to do
Level
with you.
being
Bev.
horizontal.
No, you're twisting it again. These methods to measure the plumb bobs not being parallel.
Okay, and your methods.
I'm just gonna post the link so you can get past.
Come and get me.
Okay, go on.
But anyways, but have you thought about it, like how everybody else seems to understand how this works?
Oh, everybody
And
else
you don't.
seems to understand how it works.
Yes.
And what is
You
it
think
that
this?
you think that I don't seem to understand about level being horizontal? What's the? I mean, it's not confusing, is
what
it?
what I think I don't understand how you cannot It's just two lines. They're not parallel. That's all.
What, the
It's two lines
horizontal?
which are-
This is a nice little hangout.
The plumb bobs doesn't necessarily have you can't assume that they are parallel.
But in order for
Right.
the vertical and the horizontal to be perpendicular to each other, that would
Two
require
plumb bobs
the
has
horizontal to have
Bev.
an angle to another horizontal.
Bev, we already
That-
agreed. The
that
two
doesn't
plumb bobs has
sound-
nothing to do with each other. Why do they
because
have
see,
to be parallel?
One of the
Is there a
consequent,
rule? Is there
one
a
of the
law of nature that
consequent-
they have to be parallel?
well, the perpendicular. Yeah, there's a rule of
it-
geometry. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about in nature. Is
No,
it
but
a law?
I'm
that
talking about the
states that these two
geometry.
plumb bobs-
I'm
Yes,
just
you're talking about geometry, and you're assuming a flat surface.
I'm assuming the laws of the Euclidean geometry. the
You're
system
assuming a flat surface.
that they used for measuring the Earth, still stand.
And you're assuming that the Earth is flat before
No,
you.
no. I'm
create this
assuming that the
definition.
laws of Euclidean geometry stand in reality.
Are you saying that two lines have to be parallel all the time?
If a line is marked as a vertical, then it will be perpendicular to horizontal. Yes, I'm going with that.
but those two, you created the horizontal at one point.
A
and then you
horizontal
have a plumb
plane.
bob,
Yeah, horizontal plane.
and plane. You can call it. You can create a plane.
Yeah.
You can create whatever you want to.
Yep.
It's just abstraction. So you have another point, and you create. You drop a plumb bob,
Mhm.
and from that plumb bob you can establish also a horizontal plane over there. Why is there a law of nature that tells you that these two have to be parallel?
The Euclidean law, geometry, right? The axioms.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking
Why
about
do
the
they-
axioms
why do
within
they apply?
Euclidean geometry. Why do the axioms apply?
Why do you apply a rule in math to reality?
It's Euclidean geometry, right? What do you think
Yeah,
it
I
is?
know. You mean planar geometry, basically?
No. Book 11. Did you not get that far? Or do you have a misconception that Euclidean geometry is just for plane surfaces? I think
No.
it sounds like you might have done. Did you know that they have solid geometry? There's a book of it. It's a book 11. It's pretty advanced. You have to go quite a way through the book.
I'm just gonna read something from here.
Okay, but you find something on the interwebs, right?
Wikipedia.
Please, is there? Have you not got a page sorted out yet now for you ballers that you can access?
Oh,
Surveyors
well,
help.
by
You know,
ballers
like
you
call-
mean everybody
call-
else on Earth?
Call a surveyor.
Yeah, I saw actually a video earlier where there was a guy who called the surveyor, and he asked the surveyor if he has to take into account the curvature of the Earth, and he said yes.
Ah, right. How does he do that? How does he take it into account?
He didn't ask that.
But would you have known how he would have answered it?
No.
Okay. Did you hear
Wouldn't
him when
know
he
what he
talked to
asked.
somebody and they said they never take it, or did you miss that one?
No, he never said that. He
Oh,
said
he didn't. Did he not?
No, he said
Ah,
He
well, I think
said
you might have
in
been
plain-
watching the
he said-
Everett Anderson video, have you? Because I mean, that's the one where he cut all of the fancy bits out that he liked, and then he put a bit over the top of it with a clip
actually
that was sort of like feeding you information that he wanted you to think. It was
no,
pretty,
it was a
pretty
phone,
nice bit of
You're
work.
assuming you already assumed what the video I saw. Why did you do that?
So you didn't, but you did say you
Bev,
didn't see the
A
one where
normal
he.
person would ask me what video I was watching before you starting making assumptions.
Okay, so you didn't see the Everett Anderson one then, did you? You watched the full clip.
Are you asking me now?
Yeah, I am.
Actually,
I'm
are you-
asking you, yes,
Thank
because
you.
you just
You're
said
asking me a
before that
question.
you didn't see the bit where he said he was talking to somebody.
Who the fuck is Everett,
didn't.
or what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Bev. Jesus. I'm not in your head, Bev. I cannot read your mind. I watched a video from, it was from Jose Gonzalez, where he posted a video of, it was a guy called Jim, who's a flat earther, and he called a surveyor,
Yeah.
and the whole phone is there. It might be the same video. That's what it said.
Yeah, is that? I think that's the one that Jose played, the one from
I don't
Everett
know.
Anderson, right? Not the one that Spurs played, the full one.
I don't know.
No.
What's
Because he
talking
talked
about.
to a few people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why would a surveyor say he has to take into account curvature of the earth is lying? Or...
I don't know. Why
Well,
would
he's
you?
a
Why
professional
would you think a
surveyor.
surveyor would say that they don't take any curvature into account?
Well, he said over a short distance he doesn't have to take that into
Yeah.
account.
Well, how short's that distance? Because I mean, like we did
He
a
did some
thing the other day.
examples.
We did a thing the other day, and a couple of us have done it now, right? Where you get the level, and you do 3 points over 100 meters, and then you go back and you check those 3 points, and that when you do that, it makes that a shared line segment, which means that it's the same straight line. Now, you could extend that method out forever. So how far do you consider to be a short distance?
Guess it depends on what you're gonna apply it to. Are you
just-
gonna build a bridge? Are you gonna build something else which needs
I
more
just-
precision?
Just geometry, right? Practical geometry, measuring the earth, right? So
Yeah,
what
but-
we're going to do is,
okay.
well, listen, what we're going to do is we can go down a canal, just measuring it. All the way down it, right? Measuring. Now, what do you think? What sort of a short distance are you talking about where we won't measure any curvature?
No, he didn't say when we don't measure any curvature.
Okay,
He said when they don't take it into account.
okay.
Whether you can measure it or not, I would
Well, say
probably
when-
say that's up to the precision of the equipment itself.
just explain to you, right, that there is a horizontal that goes along, and we can do that for quite a while, a long way. I'm asking you to put a distance measurement on your short while, because I can go along there establishing a horizontal forever. And what distance do you think that we should start accounting for curvature? Because according to you, we're not going to
Depends on what
measure
you're
it.
gonna use it for.
Yeah, we're not going to measure it, are we?
When did I say that?
Oh, is that one of the methods that we could use to measure curvature then?
Yes, you can use a method to measure curvature.
Okay. So we can definitely establish a horizontal. It's a straight line, and
What you're
we can
talking about,
do
Bev.
it by the practical use
Bev.
of geometry, by using a horizontal, a tool that makes a horizontal, and just measuring the earth, right? That's how you've just proposed that we measure curvature?
How did I propose that we do that? I didn't actually propose anything now.
Okay, then. So we're establishing a straight line. Go back to the basics again.
What are you talking about, Bev? You're all over the place. It's like you're having a conversation with somebody else. I'm not actually.
hang on, Funk. Bev has asked you how you would measure a curve, and all I've heard is you get Bev to describe how he thinks it goes for him.
No,
Let's
how
hear-
he
let's
would measure
hear-
it.
Yeah, I've
Let's
explained
hear-
it many times.
Let's hear how you would measure your alleged curve, Funk.
Measure, I wouldn't assume a curve, but if we were to measure whether it's a curve or not.
But how would you measure to establish the curve that you think is there?
If there is a curve,
How would you measure it? Because we've spoken to you before, and you maintained that the surface of water curves down and away.
yes.
Yeah. So how would you measure that curve?
I posted a link which explains it.
No, I'm asking you to explain verbally how you would measure it. I don't want to look at a link. I want you
Okay,
to
sure.
explain verbally.
I'll explain it again. Okay, so you
Again?
have
You
to.
haven't been there the first time, but off you go.
I did explain it. I explained it at least 3 times before, but I can explain it again. So, what I would do is I would have two stations, two measurement points. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're waiting for your explanation.
Okay. You have 2 measurement points. And if you know their elevation, their height, could establish that by being near a known surface of the ocean, for example, sea level. And if you're pointing those 2 theodolites at each other, you have already established the plumb line in these instruments. And if you have to point downwards to hit the other theodolite, which is at the same elevation, that means that it would have to be curving away from you. Or it means that the plumb is not vertical or parallel to your own plumb, to the plumb where you are. And you can do that over and over and over again.
Can I just check
It's
that?
always going to point down a little
Did
bit.
you say 2 points from
Yes.
a point to a point?
Yes.
Right, and you got curve.
Well, both points are not angled in relation to each other. If you're measuring more and more points, each point is going to curve away from the other one.
Curve again? You said it again.
That's
2 points. Curve.
yeah.
Well,
Huh?
well,
You're talking about Bev. I never said curve. I said 2
Yes,
points.
you did.
tilt.
They are
2 points.
it's a
angled
tilt,
away
right?
from each
Come
other.
on, B-Lew's
Angled-
taught you better
angled-
than this.
Sorry, angled away from each other.
Tilt, we call it.
Angled
Or
away.
Jesse
from each other.
calls it tilt, anyway.
Right, and the
Yes,
angle
you can call
between
it tilt.
The angle between 2 points is what? Funk.
It's an angle between the 2 points.
Which is what? It's not a curve. There's another word for it. What is it?
It's an angle.
And that angle is not a curve. It's a.
Why isn't it the curve?
It's 2
If
points.
it's
it can't be a
angling-
curve.
If
It's
it's
a straight
angling
line between
gradually,
2 points.
yes,
It's a
but
straight line between 2 points. It cannot be a curve.
but if
What is
you're
it?
but if you're measuring or every 1 kilometer for
So you get,
100
you get a
kilometers,
straight line between each point.
sure, you can do that, but that's the only resolution you have. Do you think there is actually a straight line between
You
each
think a
point?
straight line between 2 points is a curve?
I think if you were to measure it with
That's
more
not what I'm
precision,
asking.
it would
I'm
be.
asking, is a straight line between 2 points a curve? Yes or no?
No, that's not
Well done.
curvature. But I don't see how that's
Do you?
proving anything.
Is it
though.
mentally? Do you think it curves?
Bev,
Is that why you keep saying curve whenever you're talking about?
how many
between 2 points?
measurements would you have to do before you think the resolution is good enough to establish whether it's curving or not?
If you're measuring between 2 points, then that's a straight line. It will never curve, no matter
how
how
would
many
you
times you measure.
How would you go about measuring whether it's curving or not?
I've already explained that. Are you trying to get a hint from me? Like, because I've explained how I would measure the curvature, but there's no curvature there to be had. I just end up showing you that a level is horizontal. That's what I end up doing.
No, you agree with, or I don't know if you agree with how this method or not, but you're measuring a tilt between them. So the
Tilt. Well,
if you're measuring that,
the angular
then
tilt. Nice. That sounds better.
Then the plumb bobs are not parallel, are they?
I can imagine, right? So you think at any one point of the water there is an angular tilt that the water goes away from you.
You
Drops.
mean like there is an edge where it suddenly starts to tilt?
Yeah.
It's like a clear, definite cut edge.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you don't think so?
Oh, it isn't either, right? It has never been observed.
It's a tilt, though.
So if there is
I'm loving the tilt. Jesse would be very proud.
Bev, if it's tilting away, if you measure it to tilting away and you see no edge, how is that possible, Bev?
You know when we're now going to say level is a tilt, can you tell us which direction the tilt is?
It's away from the measurements point you are at.
Okay. Fantastic.
What's funny about that?
What's funny about what? That level is a tilt away from the position you're going to start the measurement from.
I don't think the instrument cares about what you call level.
Is that tilt a fixed angle as well?
Fixed angle, what you're talking about?
Well, is the angle of tilt fixed for distance measured?
You mean that it doesn't change?
Is that not what fixed means? Fixed means something doesn't change.
I guess so. I'm asking you.
No, well,
No,
it's
he asked you.
it's your idea.
No, but you domestic primate, you asked me, is it fixed? And I asked you to clarify what you're meaning. And suddenly I have to clarify what you mean.
And you said doesn't change, and that is what
Do you
fixed
mean?
means.
I asked you. Do you mean that it doesn't change?
That's what fixed
He
means.
said yes.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Thank you. That's what you mean. Okay. Well, it can vary slightly.
Slightly, as in
Yeah.
how much slightly?
Is that
I
like
guess
a plus or minus type of?
Yeah, it's a measurement.
It's a
error.
plus
It's
or
a
minus.
And how much
or minus.
variation are we looking at?
It
in this
depends on
angle of
depends on everything. It depends on the atmosphere. It depends on the distance to
how
what
can
you're
it depend on
observing.
the atmospherics? You're talking about a physical tilt, a physical angular tilt. So how can it depend on
Because-
atmospherics?
Because you are watching through the atmosphere. That's
Do you really
you're
know what you're talking
watching
about?
through the medium.
He
You
doesn't know
making
what
this
I think.
bullshit up as you go along.
Yes.
No, we are literally using the instrument by watching it
Right.
through
Okay.
the
So your
atmosphere.
angle of tilt, does it vary per distance measured?
Yes, that also changes
Right.
it if you change.
And
but
the variation.
we are
so it's not-
talking about-
It's not fixed at all. So your first statement that it is
domestic
fixed-
primate, you are being severely. You're not being precise enough. I thought we were talking about a single
Hang on. My first
measurement
statement
now.
to you was: does the angle of tilt change per distance measured? Okay. And
Okay.
I
Like
offered
not
you
in
this
not in
fix.
within the same distance now, but if you
What do you
change
mean
the
not
distance,
within the
of
same
course.
distance? Why are you speaking in circles? I'm asking
I'm not
you.
speaking.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm
I'm
not.
asking you. I'm standing here. The angle of tilt per distance measured away from me. Does that angle change over
If you
that
change
distance
the
measured?
distance, if you change the distance to what you're measuring to, then yes, it's gonna change.
Right. And what is the variation in this change, this angular change?
That depends on how much it changed.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. What
Yeah,
is the
I don't know.
variation in
I
the
don't
change?
have the number.
You'll
I
work.
don't
You'll
have the
work
number.
the amount of change that's needed once you know how much change is going to be needed. Is that what you're saying?
Why would you make that assumption that that's what people do?
We're not making any assumptions.
you.
We're trying to ask. We're asking you to clarify your position on this angular tilt that changes over distance.
Yes, that's what it does.
Can I jump
I
in
don't
real
have the
quick?
specific numbers on it. If you want that, I
Funk,
would have to check.
why would you aim a theodolite at another theodolite? Are you doing reciprocal leveling? What are you trying to determine?
In this case, it's to determine the. I believe they call it reciprocal zenith angles. Yeah,
What does that
that's
mean?
the definition. I'm not 100% sure why they do it specifically.
Is that when you're looking over a long area and you've got perspective compression and refraction that you're trying to eliminate?
No.
You sure about that?
What do you mean by compression?
I think maybe somebody misrepresented what they were doing to you, and you think they were actually trying to measure curve.
Well, if there is a curve, then that's what you measure, right?
No, because you're measuring angles. How can angles give you a curve?
Because
we
this
just had- we
angle,
just had this
if
we just had this conversation.
I know, but if the other plumb bob is angling away from you, then
It gives you an
then
angle,
that's what it's
and
gonna do. Yes.
2
Alright.
points
That's not
and the line between it is not an curve. It's not
Yeah,
a curve. We have just
but-
been through this.
And where is the edge? Where is the edge? If it's not gonna curve, then there has to be some point where it's angling away from
It's
you.
a tilt,
Where
isn't
is
it?
that?
We
Yes,
lose the
but where
curve
is-
before.
Where does it tilt? When does it
call it a
start
tilt.
to tilt?
Dunno,
Funk,
it's
if you
Is
if
it
you
an
determine
edge you
a
walk over?
Funk, if you determine an angular difference between your two plumb lines over a short segment, right? You should be able to extrapolate that out, right? And determine the actual size of the Earth. Have you done that?
No, I haven't done these measurements.
You ought to try that. See how big that ball is. Might be as big as a small town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't
I
they?
don't know what you're talking about.
They don't. I think he might have heard somebody say that they don't take any curvature into account for areas as big as a small town. Perhaps maybe even bigger.
Yeah,
than
yeah. That's true. That's probably
that.
true.
100 square miles. So how would you propose, again, we'll give you it again, how would you propose to measure the curvature within that area where no curvature is taken into account?
By saying that, I would guess that the reason why they're saying it is because whether you're taking it into account or not doesn't change your application of the surveying in any way.
Yeah.
Who taught you that tilt? Was that Belu or Jesse or somebody?
Why are you so hung up on who has been telling me these things?
Well, you
should
need to check
be able
back
to
with
argument against it by itself.
No, you need to check back with your source and say, what exactly
Oh.
were you trying to tell me when you said there was a variation in your plumb lines, your zenith angles? Tell me what you meant by that. What were you trying to do? Was that reciprocal leveling?
I have a drawing between of how they have measured that. Yes.
Who drew that? Rumpus?
Principle. No. No, Rumpus. Why are you so hung up on who did it?
Drawing, I think.
How are you so?
Drawing
Why are
Koso's
you guys so hung up on who did it? It's like it's a
let's see if
glove
I've got
attack
one.
on
I
you.
think I might have a.
You
Wasn't
could
you.
should be
Who
able
did the drawing?
to instead of talking about who did it or not, you should be able to defend your or come some argument against the point that I made.
Did
You
you
can't
just say?
explain how the
Come
drawing
with it.
works.
I did explain it.
No, you didn't.
I did it.
Because
You're
you're hung up on
literally-
your tilt.
you're
you can't
literally-
explain, and you don't know that a line between 2 points is not a curve.
Where if you're measuring every 100 meters, you think it's a straight line and then there's an edge at that second tilt line.
No.
Because a straight line you can extend indefinitely on a horizontal plane.
I'm talking about
True that. True that.
long line.
Funk,
I'm
what you
talking
are
about
is just
lines
you're just a
and
little
not
wind up you're a little wind up robot out here regurgitating something that you
Is that the
thought you
picture?
understood
Picture in
You
the live
haven't made
stream.
any argument against what I said yet.
against
no.
your assumption.
All you did was saying who did it, who made this drawing. Did Rumpus tell you this? Did Spurs post this video? Who did
Spurs?
who?
Why would Spurs do a ridiculous
Spurs?
drawing like that?
I don't know. You guys ask me. It's your.
He can't see the live
It's-
stream.
it's your
text,
argument.
can he?
He's getting confused between Spurs and Kosho as well, I think.
No, Spurs
Oh,
did the
no.
surveying video. He's obviously been triggered by Spurs'.
No, but you guys
surveying
are
video.
more hung up on who did. Who
Well, if
did
it was a little
drawing.
kid who told you
I
this
do-
stuff, we'd want
I
to know
do
your
understand the drawing, even though somebody else made a drawing. I do understand it,
Funk,
and I just
Funk,
explained it to you.
is that your image there? Or whose name is that on there?
No, that-
Mactoon.net.
Is it?
Oh,
I don't know
please
what
watch
it's-
what you're
I don't
doing.
know who
Don't
made
nobody click that link.
Yeah, you
It's a
better
good.
be
It's
careful.
a
Don't
good drawing.
click
It's a good drawing.
That link.
Funk, you've got a lot to learn, brother. A real lot to learn.
No, it's very simple actually. I don't understand why it's so hard to think about two lines not being parallel.
But 2 lines don't have to be parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
not-
then
that's
if you
not a
measure them
rule.
to not be parallel, then if you create 2 horizontals out of those 2 lines, will they be parallel?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Funk.
2 horizontals. out of
That's
2
you guys are
separate
way
lines.
off, man. I cannot.
Yeah,
I
of
cannot.
course they'll be
Yeah.
parallel.
Funk, if this
They
demonstrates,
are the plums are not parallel. If you create a perpendicular out of 2 plums, how
Hang on,
can
hang
they?
on.
How can the
Funk,
2
you just
plum
cut- you just cut
perpendiculars
Cleary
be
off.
parallel?
You just cut Cleary off. The 2.
Yeah,
Go on, Cleary. Sorry.
the angular difference between these plumb lines, right? You should be able to determine what your radius is and your circumference of this ball that you think you live on. Can you not?
You can extrapolate that, yes.
Do
If you
it.
follow the curve.
Can you do it for us? That would be great. I'd love to see a ball the size
As
of.
I said, I haven't done this myself.
Why not? You just believe other people, nameless people.
Not
You can't even
everything.
fight?
Not everything. I believe some things, not everything.
All right,
It's perfectly understandable, this drawing.
but you believe nothing that we tell you.
9403. It is.
Um,
it is.
it is-
Oh, you've
it-
not even credited
It
him.
is. It is actually kind of
Where
strange.
did you get these graphics
When I
from?
explain to you guys,
You do
I-
realise. You do realise.
the pictures.
Oh, where did
So-
you get them from?
Sorry, it's 3 people asking me questions at the same time.
Sorry, Dad. Go on.
Yeah, where did you get your picture from?
From the site I posted.
If you
the
try,
link I
are
posted.
you trying to get us a copyright strike?
For real.
Oh, you can just delete. I can delete. If that's
What's he
the
done?
problem.
He's put that picture up that's come from Jeff from Maine, you know,
Uh-huh.
but it hasn't got Jeff's credit. It's not been credited to Jeff. It's definitely
dangerous.
Jeff's because it's got all of the numbers on it.
I
94,
credit it,
94
is it okay?
degrees. It's got his.
Delete the.
Sorry,
picture,
I can
Funk.
delete the
I'll
picture.
give you
Hurry.
the one next
Fine.
time for you that you
Hurry,
should
man,
use
hurry.
next time.
Calm down.
I'll not go.
Hurry.
I'll not go on
Calm
it.
down, man.
Oh, we're
But
safe
you
now.
are you allowed to click the link I posted?
No, because he might
Oh, no.
copyright strike us, and we don't
Because
want
he
that.
found another image, which is quite similar.
Can you draw your own? Like, get a crayon.
I
and
did.
draw it.
I maybe did it some other time. I'm not gonna waste my time drawing this again.
You're not going to waste your time explaining what
There
you've
you
come
go,
here
look.
to explain.
I have explained it so many times.
See this
All
one
right.
in the debate discussion there. It's got Casey. She's the one that pretends to be a Canadian school teacher, maths teacher, and she made that meme and she put Main Surveyor
Yeah,
on.
there you
So
have
credit him with these.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, that's
That's
the
the
one.
proper way to do it.
That's fine. You
But
just
don't use the other name. Use that main surveyor name.
Yeah.
Jeff.
I've just got a quick question for you, though, Funk. Right? You know.
Quick question.
Yeah, you know, questions.
sure.
They're kind of what a debate's about. You ask questions, and then the answers are given, and then points
Yeah.
are raised, and you know, a bit of a discord, backwards and forwards. That's the way it works here.
Mm.
That meme that's been posted, right? Your you got your line of sight.
Yes.
And then you've got your two little triangles, each end of the line of sight. What is that supposed to be? Your theodolites.
Yeah, that's the theodolite.
Right. Okay. And then you've got lines that go vertically, well, supposedly vertically.
Plumb
up.
lines. Plumb
Right.
lines.
But they're not plumb lines, are they?
They are plumb lines.
They are not plumb lines because
They are
plumb
plumb
lines have
lines.
to be at 90 degrees perpendicular to the horizontal.
Why do they have to be that? Why is the rule?
That is what a plumb line is.
Why does at those
A
two, as I
plumb
said
line-
earlier,
A plumb line is 90 degrees perpendicular to a horizontal. Those lines are not plumb lines.
what if they are not parallel, and how would you go about determining that? Why
What
would
do
you
mean?
make that
What is
assumption?
what if you? Well, I'm not talking about parallel. I'm talking about them being perpendicular to a horizontal, being your baseline. Your baseline isn't horizontal.
Baseline is the plumb line, though.
No,
You can
the
drop a-
horizontal, the perpendicular to your claimed plumb lines, is not horizontal, is it? Look at the drawing.
If you
Hey,
drop a lead ball, does it care about where the horizon is?
Can I say one
Doesn't.
thing real quick? That the line of sight and the plumb line is 90 degrees, but then somehow that's those same two lines that are 90 degrees perpendicular. Somehow that angle's a larger angle as it gets farther away.
Yeah, but he's not
What
taking
angle
plumb.
is-
He's not taking
Sorry.
plumb line from his line of
What
sight, is
is
he?
getting
He's
larger
taking the
as
plumb
they go
line
away?
from the baseline, which is that curved line.
The plumb line is a simple lead ball dropped. That's
It's
all
the
it
what?
is. It's a lead ball. You can drop a lead ball, for example.
Yeah, I know what a plumb line is, but it's not perpendicular to your baseline, is it?
It doesn't care about what your baseline is. You drop a lead ball.
But it has to be perpendicular to a horizontal.
Are you God? Who decides this? Why are you thinking that it has to be like that? You're not God. You can decide.
Are you trying to say that a vertical's a static thing, DP, and you can't just tilt it over a bit?
Am I trying to say?
Yeah,
Care
what are
about
you
what you
doing?
think about where it's supposed to be.
Um,
If there is
mate,
something,
I'm just gobsmacked. I'm just gobsmacked that he just doesn't get it.
I understand what you're
You
saying,
can't
but
form
you
a
seem to
perpendicular
think
from
that
the
there
line
is.
of sight. So your perpendicular to your plumb line has to be your baseline, which is your curve. You cannot form a perpendicular being a plumb line from a curved line.
How are you talking about?
Exactly.
All I'm talking
What are we
about
talking
is
drawing.
the plumb line. If you're dropping two plumb lines, do they speak to each other in any way? Do they care about where you draw that perpendicular line? No, it doesn't care about that.
No, but they
dropping
will
to-
both be perpendicular
dropping-
to that perpendicular.
Well, measure and see. That's what that's what the job is. You need to measure to establish
you
that,
have
right?
the burden. You have the burden of proof, my friend.
Well, that's what every surveyor is saying, that when you're measuring that, you're getting a curve.
They must
That's
be right.
why we think that the Earth is. Well, you can assume that everybody's lying. That's fine.
Are a
You
million
can say
people
that.
wrong about something ever? Yeah, they are. Certainly.
Some place, yeah.
You keep saying this, that everybody that
It's not the
like, but
only way.
who have you asked?
I have read on about surveying.
Right, so who have you asked? Because you've just claimed
I
that everybody, we are claiming that everybody is wrong.
Wrong.
So who have you asked, please?
I haven't called and asked anybody.
Okay, so you don't know anything about this. You've already claimed that you don't know anything about surveying.
And the only person we're calling wrong is you.
Are you saying that I am misinterpreting what every other surveyor is saying?
We're saying
Every other
you
surveyor.
are wrong.
Yeah.
What? Please, please explain.
Am I wrong on
Please,
every
please
other
explain what a surveyor is to you.
surveyor? A surveyor is somebody who is measuring the land.
How many surveyors have you contacted?
I I said already, are you deaf? I said already, I haven't contacted anybody.
So all
So
you
0.
know is that
Okay.
people who measure the land are
Yeah.
called surveyors, and you think every one of them say what?
I think professional surveyors,
Yeah.
They
What?
know.
What is
They
it
know.
that they say?
they say that the Earth is a sphere and is curving
Right.
everywhere. around.
And how do they measure that? Please.
One of the methods is measuring that, but it's already established, so nobody is
Measuring
doing
that.
it anymore.
Bev asked
You
you
don't
how
have
do
to
they
prove-
measure that, and your response was they measure that.
Yeah.
So
That's
Bev
brilliant.
asked
They
you
can-
to elaborate
Genius.
They can measure it
how
using the methods
they
on the
measure
drawing.
that.
For
That
example,
being the curve of
for
the claimed curve
for
of
ex-
the Earth.
For example, if you let me speak. For example, what you posted in the image there. That's one way. That's
Hey,
how we
Funk.
establish. That's how.
Funk.
That's
Funk.
how we establish.
Funk. Hello.
That's how.
Funk. Chunky
I
butt
hear
boy.
you, but you're
Chunky butt
interrupting
boy.
me. That's
Chunky
why
butt
I'm
boy.
so annoyed.
Oh God. Chunky butt boy had a question for you. How do you measure curvature?
I don't know if I want
He
to
did say.
respond.
He said they do it like that. Now, when you looked at that, right, that picture that
No,
Jeff.
just told us.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
just told us.
But you say they do it like that, and they make measurements like that,
Way
do
to
they?
do it. That's one way to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So are you presuming that 94 degree and 94 degree, both of those two angles, are what we will call reciprocal zenith angles?
I believe that's what they called. Yeah.
And it's a simple measurement like that, and Jeff has made that measurement himself, right? And then he's drawn a picture to show you what he's done. Is that what you think?
That's. Yes, he has done that.
Yeah, okay. And so you're imagining that because you've seen that picture that Jeff's done, right, and that Casey has then obviously done a ridiculous modus tollens underneath it, right? But because you've seen
throwing
both
up
of those
creation of
together,
tollens.
right, you
That's not
imagine that Jeff's actually done this. There
yeah,
are people there, yeah.
I saw a video of him doing it, so I guess that's true.
Okay.
So we
So
of him.
you're talking about a drawing, not reality. You're just talking about a drawing here. I could draw lots of stuff.
That's the sketch of a principle, but he also has a video where.
So you're defending a sketch of something that you've never seen.
I wasn't with him personally when it didn't. When it
Man, you
didn't.
need to watch out what you're, propagating out here.
What's the problem with what I'm propagating?
Well, you have no, have no basis for what you're defending. You're just talking about a drawing.
I have though, because it's not the only evidence. Isn't using a theodolite to determine the surface of the Earth. It's a lot of
Do
other
people
ways.
lie anytime? Have you ever seen somebody lie or misrepresent something? You need to be careful.
Yes, but the problem is that the other things that I have seen myself is also conforming with that the Earth is a sphere. So I have no reason to believe that they're lying, because it's confirming what I have done myself.
What have you done yourself to confirm your belief?
A lot.
What practical experiments have you done yourself?
For example, observations of the sky.
Right,
I
okay,
have
so, but Paul Earth has claimed that you can't prove anything with observation.
I never
This,
said
this,
you
is, this has
prove
been
it.
along. Well, I asked you what proof you've given yourself through your
I
experiments,
would infer it.
and you
I
come
would
back with an
infer that-
observation.
I would say it's. I can infer it from all the observations I've done.
And
with
you
my
can't
telescope.
prove where you're standing by looking at the sky.
I can infer what I'm standing on based on the
No,
sky.
well, inference is still a belief.
It's not a baseless belief though. It's
No,
based on something.
But I can infer that
It's my evidence.
ground is. I can infer that the ground is flat and the sky moves above my head by looking at the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. There's no proof in that. I never claim there is a proof in that. I asked you what proofs you have come up with through your experimentation
Did I
back to
say?
your claim.
Okay, I don't have proof. I have observations which confirm what that the
Confirm your
Earth is,
belief system.
and it's also no, and it's
Yes.
also very easy to disprove based on this observation that the Earth is definitely not flat.
Okay, then, so let's go at it the other way. How did you disprove with your observations that the Earth is flat?
By observing the stars, the distance between the stars, based on
You
where I'm.
observed the distance between the stars.
Yes.
Is that a curved?
I wasn't finished, but he interrupted me before I was finished. You observe the distance between the stars. You can measure the angular distance between them, and if we are on a
Angular
based
distance?
on how Bev,
Well, I'm confused as to what an angular distance is. Other
Angulars,
people might be also.
angular distance. Yes, you can use that word.
Yeah, from what's the distance though? I can understand what an
A
angle
certain
is, but
amount
what's the
of degree.
distance?
10 degrees.
Yeah, but that's an angle.
Yeah.
Well, what's the distance part of it?
Okay, you can drop the distance part if you don't want to use that.
Yeah.
So basically, you have no observations.
You
I'm
measure
not
an
finished
angle.
yet. No,
But so the distance to that's just
based
disappeared.
on where we are on Earth. If you move around on Earth,
Right,
the
so
stars.
you're presupposing your sphere to disprove that the plane
No.
is flat.
No.
Oh yeah, you just said according to where you are. Well, according to where you are.
No,
on your
I don't
baseless
care
belief
about
system.
whether the Earth is. I don't care whether the Earth is a sphere yet. I'm saying that if I move around, I have an expectation of what the sky should look like if it's a flat surface.
But you don't
And
think
it
it is a
doesn't
flat
fit. It
surface.
doesn't. I don't have to think anything, but I can make an hypothesis how it would look like.
Oh,
if
so
the
you
Earth is flat.
hypothesize what it might look
Yes.
like, and then because your belief system, according to your observations, it doesn't fit your hypothesis, you dismiss as out of hand.
I can dismiss it, yeah, based on what I observed.
Your observations don't fit your hypothesis of an assumption of what you would see.
It's not an
That
assumption.
makes real sense, Funk.
Well, if you can give me an explanation how the stars can have, for example, two celestial poles on a flat surface,
I've
be
never
my
seen
guess.
two. I've never seen two celestial
I've
poles.
seen two poles. I've seen two.
I've
celestial-
seen. Yeah, you might have done. I've never had.
I have seen, and there is no way you can have that on a flat surface. It's impossible.
Well, that's your opinion, and like I say, I've
An
never seen.
opinion.
I've never
Uh,
seen two celestial poles.
It's geometrically impossible to do that.
Oh, geography. He wants to go back to geography.
Geometry. I'm right on
Oh,
that.
yeah. Sorry. Oh,
So
my
if
geo's
you
not
guys-
good.
So if you guys can give me an explanation, be my guess, but
For
there is
what?
no way.
We're talking about a horizontal straight line, right?
No, I'm talking about how I am observing the sky to determine that the Earth is not flat.
Okay, so can we establish then that from a point to a point, is that a straight line?
Oh, you guys agree with me or not?
We're just trying to establish whether we're talking straight lines or imagined curved straight lines or actual curved lines between 2 points. I mean, there's
What
a,
lines are you talking about now?
there's a difference. Well, if we're going from a point to a point, is that
Talking about in the sky.
is that a straight line, or is it a curved line? In which case, we would need to have a radius dimension, wouldn't we, in order to know how
Yeah.
much of a curve there is? Or
Angle.
is it an imagined curved straight line, the one that you can just pretend it's straight, but also have a good think about it being curved, but never give any direct measurements or any real tangible curvature to it. Just imagine it, you know.
I use the proper name for angular. The distance between the two things is called angular distance.
In between two straight lines, right?
No, it's an angle between two points. Measured in degrees, radians, or whatever you want to.
Yeah, that's the parts of an angle. We know that. Two straight lines.
Yeah.
And then the inclination of the two is called an angle. Now, there needs to be two separate straight lines. At least in the geometry that I use. It's even in the definition of the angle. Plane rectilinear angle is the inclination of two straight lines to one another.
You can call it what you want. The angular distance is at least something you can measure in the sky.
Yeah, straight lines. Like, wait, so can you
Yes.
admit
And it doesn't change.
that
It
a
doesn't
straight
change.
line is a line between 2 points, right?
Yes.
Lies evenly between its two extreme points.
What you're talking about now.
A straight line.
What about the straight line?
It is. That was my
Listen to
definition
the
of it.
question.
Lies evenly between its two extreme points. It doesn't.
What do you mean? What
Curve.
lies evenly between two straight
A
lines?
straight line
A
between
straight
2
line
points,
li-
right? Did you interrupt me before I finished?
No, but I thought you were finished and I didn't understand what you were meaning.
Okay.
Straight line between 2 points, yes. Go on.
That's a straight line, like a straight line without curvature, right? Just so we understand what a straight line is. Because before, you not remember, you were kept saying curvature, didn't you, between 2 points?
Yeah, but I said angular distance now.
Yeah, but angular distance.
And you
okay?
made a whole thing about it's not being a real word.
No, I know. I was trying to get you to explain what you meant by angular distance.
It's by dividing the sphere around around the point where you are to 360 degrees.
Yeah, like a radian.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Right.
an assumed sphere.
And then
Okay.
you measure the distance to each point.
But how do you measure a distance if you're using a radian, which is a measurement of a radius?
Because
You're
otherwise you
not
don't know the
presupposing the radius by using
you
a
don't-
radian, are you not?
You don't know the distance to them, so you don't really know the distance between the stars using this way of measuring things, right?
You don't know the distance, but this way of measuring
To them,
distances. What?
Bev, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I said you don't know the distance to the stars. Thereby, you cannot know the distance between the stars. You're not making any sense. It's not a practical
It's
way
you.
of measuring.
You started this by saying
No,
you
you're missing.
knew
You're not hearing
the
what I'm saying.
distance.
Funk, stop interrupting. You said your bit, and then Bev was responding to you. Stop cutting him off.
You said
so-
you knew the distance. This is the whole point. What you were talking about, the distance to
angle-
the stars, and we said, how do you do that?
Angular distance. I know the angular distance between the stars. Yeah.
You know
How
the
do you
angle.
know between the stars?
Using a. You can use, for example. I have an attachment to the telescope.
So hang on.
Where
You
you
need
can
to know
see the
how
angle.
far. You need to know how far away the star is that you're looking at
No,
to
it's
know the
definitely
distance between that star and the star next to it.
that's not the angular distance. You're talking about something else. You're talking about real distance.
Oh,
Linear.
right. Yeah. So you're measuring
Angular
the
distance.
just the
word-
angle.
distance. Right. Yeah.
The
I
word-
got ya. I
The
got
word
ya.
which you
Yeah.
thought I made up.
He's just adding distance in because it's the angle from one side of the line to the other line. It's just the angle between
You
two
measure the
straight
distance
lines.
You're measuring the distance between 2 points.
No, you're just measuring the angle, right?
Between them, yeah.
Yeah, the inclination
Basically.
of two straight lines
Yeah.
to one another.
So how does that angle give you a distance?
It's give you a distance in degree. It's called angular distance.
But
How do you
work
Wikipedia
that?
link.
How do
We
you
can
work
learn
that? How do you work that angular distance back to a straight line physical distance?
I gotta go actually.
How do you do this?
I never said you determine a straight line from that.
So all you're determining is the angular differential between one light in the sky and another light in the sky, and saying, yes, I live on a ball.
That's a stretch to say that. I never said
Well,
that.
this is exactly what you've just said.
Not in the experiment we did.
What experiment did you do?
I said how I can definitely prove that we're not living
No,
on
you
a
didn't say how you can definitely prove that. You just spouted a load of words and then
You
said you
didn't
can measure
understand
it
me.
between
You
the angular distance between
Well,
two lights in the sky.
It stopped because you didn't think angular distance was a real word, so stop right there.
Well, that was actually Bev, but
Yeah, whoever
we'll
did
carry
it.
on there. But come on. So how does this angular distance between two lights in the sky, that isn't actually a distance, it's just an angle, how does this
Well,
confirm your presupposition that your feet are on a ball?
I actually did calculations on this if you want to see.
How? Well, come on then. How did you do? What did you calculate against what to give you the outcome that you're standing on a ball?
Because if you move to another position on Earth, if you move X amount of kilometers, the stars will move in a linear fashion.
So you're
up in
talking
the
about
sky.
measurements of milliseconds of arc.
No, I'm moving on to a different country. I brought with my telescope to a different country.
So you would need to see any major difference. You would need to go from one side of your globe to the other.
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about how they move in relation to each other necessarily now. I'm talking about how they move in the sky, that they're moving down or up depending on where I am.
Now you can't tell. Why have you just changed ships? Why have you gone from your observed differential in angle between two lights in the sky, proving to you that you live on a ball, and now you're just going to the movement of the lights in the sky, proves to you that you live on a ball? Why have you just dumped one idea and jumped onto another idea?
I didn't jump on one idea. The both
No, but you dumped your first idea.
The angular distance between the stars does not change, and when we move across the sky,
change.
The stars change position in the sky. And
the stars change position in the sky all through the night, from the moment it gets dark to the moment that it gets light in the morning. The stars are constantly changing position.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the position in relation to the horizon at the same point every day.
And this somehow proves to you that you
use
live on a ball.
The polar star is easier to use since it doesn't move.
And have you been up to the pole to verify that the pole star is 90 degrees north from the North Pole?
I haven't been to the North Pole. No.
Well, there you're working on an assumption again, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Because I have done measurements which makes it impossible without actually going to the North Pole. It doesn't matter
Makes
if
it impossible. Makes it impossible without going to the North Pole.
No, that's wrong.
That's what you just said.
Wrong. I said it's not necessary to go to the North Pole to determine this.
To verify that it's 90 degrees north.
You don't have to verify that even. Don't know why.
Okay. So your 90 degree north measurement you don't have to verify.
You can move to 3 points, different points in Europe, and that's enough to determine that the Earth is not flat.
To determine that the Earth is not flat.
Yes. Are you having a hearing impairment? You're
No.
repeating every word
I'm just trying to verify and clarify what you're saying, because you do mumble into your microphone. I don't know whether you're eating the collar of your jumper or whether you're wearing a roll
Sorry.
neck jumper, turtleneck or something. But it sounds like you've
Might
got
be a
your
shitty
microphone shoved down the top of your turtleneck.
I don't, but
Like, we do know that it's not flat, right? There's mountains and valleys.
I'm not talking about that.
We do know about. So you're specifically talking about the water level, then, right?
You're derailing. I'm not talking about that at all.
Just the water level, then, right?
I'm not talking about that.
You're not talking about the water level when you're talking about it being flat.
he's
I'm
about his
talking about
fanciful
the
stars.
observations in the stars.
Okay, all right. So you're looking up at lights in the sky and determining that the ground under your feet isn't flat.
Yes.
So were you stood on the top of a mountain with your telescope when you determined that the ground beneath your feet wasn't flat?
I've stood on top of a mountain, not on top of it, but I've been in different elevation. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's not much of a stretch to know if you've been to different elevations that it's not flat.
I would guess that.
That's, well, yeah.
Can't be flat,
Genius.
can it?
But if I move from the problem I have is how things would move if I move 50 kilometers.
Yep.
And the stars, if I see the star, if I move even
That's not
more,
even 1 degree on Polaris.
if I see Polaris, yes, I know, I know that. If you are watching Polaris and you're moving south, if you can see the Polaris quite high in the sky, it should never go below the horizon ever.
Just a minute.
And it also should not move linearly with each kilometers.
Do you
That's
think?
what it does. Bev,
I'm just.
can you please let me finish now?
Go on.
because I gotta
I
go
thought you
soon.
finished.
No. It sounds like you don't listen to what I have to say, since you're just starting to interrupt me in the middle of my sentence.
This is just Sean Dawkins'
Yeah.
Polaris bullshit. So
Yeah.
we've heard it all before.
Why
so
is it bullshit? You have to
Can
say
I-
why.
Can I just ask?
If
Do you
I move
think?
south.
Do you think perspective compression is a function of distance?
I don't know what you mean by perspective compression.
it's an
Are you
optical
talking about
effect.
this, how it's scaling with distance?
Yeah. I mean, do you
Yeah.
think it's a thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think I know what you mean when you say perspective compression. Yeah.
It's a function of distance, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But how is it related to the distance? That's the problem in when you're applying perspective to the star, and if you're moving across a flat surface,
Yeah, we just said
it would drop. It would. Bev, I'm not finished. It would drop much faster in the beginning. It would not be a linear drop per kilometer you're moving.
Yeah, but if it's a ball, right, this is the thing, it would drop much faster towards the end as you go further round your curve. It wouldn't be a
Yeah.
linear function even if you're on a ball.
But
it would
perspective,
be much closer to linear than anything else.
perspective compression being a function of distance, do you not think that's linear? Or do you think that
No,
works?
it's not. It's not.
Oh,
It's not linear.
okay. All right, fair enough. So, if that's what you think, I mean,
Oh, it's just reality. That's not how perspective works. If you're moving,
you.
if you're moving,
Hang on.
If you're saying it's
5 minutes
linear,
ago,
that
didn't
means-
know what perspective compression was, and now you're saying that's how it works in reality.
yeah, but I
How
explained
did you
what I
become an
think
expert
in-
in the last 2 minutes?
because
Because
I
you're making
said-
it up.
no, I told you
Yes.
what I thought you meant.
You told us
I
what
I
you
said-
thought we meant.
Yes, I said I think I know what you're meaning by that.
Oh dear.
yes, I did. I did, and I completely admit into it all. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Come on, Funk. You can do better than this,
You
surely.
must try harder.
Do you want? Have
Yes,
you not? Do you
I
not
have
work
never
in the
heard
double
before,
team, right? You don't want to bring somebody in to tag you in and out.
I have never
He
heard.
did that the other day, didn't he,
I
with
think so.
Kosho, and Kosho just dropped him in the shit and ran.
No,
Yeah, look at this drawing here.
you guys think there's
Measure
some
this
grand
angle up here in the air.
living in fantasy land over here, thinking
That
there's some
one.
grand conspiracy against you guys. I guess it makes sense.
No, nobody's.
I don't
claimed
know
it's
what
a
are you doing.
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Are you making some
Me
sort?
and
Is
Co-
that you
me and
making
Kosho
some
is-
sort of conspiracy up?
Me and Kosho is conspiring against you.
No,
Yes.
no, Kosho just dropped a drawing in the chat for you to explain, and then Kosho ran away.
I
And
did
you couldn't
understand
explain.
it.
That's not a conspiracy. That is
I did
factually.
explain it.
That is
but
factually
and
what happened.
Kosho-
It's not a conspiracy.
Kosho did understand what I mean.
He
It's
still
you
ran
guys.
away, and the
I
drawing
don't know
didn't
why.
the drawing doesn't make any sense even now.
An angle up in the air. Remember that? That was a
Yeah, the one you
genius
can't
one.
measure. You need a bloody high step ladder to get up there and
Very
measure that angle.
simple to actually understand it.
So how do you measure the angle that's right up in the air then?
Let's see if I can forget it. I might have saved that. It was that funny.
Come on,
Yeah,
Funk.
but
You've had a couple of
it's
days to think about it. You should be able to work it
perspective.
out by now. No.
Perspective compression. I've never heard that term before.
Have you not?
You need to speak to who was it?
Mick West.
Nick West.
What is
That's the
perspective
one.
Mick West.
compression?
Do you know?
What
Do you
is-
know Mick West?
What is
Funk?
perspective compression
Mick?
about?
Do you know Mick West, Funk?
What is
Have you
compressed
ever heard of Mick West? Funk?
no?
No.
It
What
is
is-
compression due to perspective, as the name implies.
Yeah.
Go and research Mick West.
I googled perspective compression. I find
Have
nothing on
you
it.
have you heard of
Is it
Soundley's
something?
Bridge?
Is it a flat earther?
Have you ever heard of Soundley's
Mike.
Bridge, the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge? It's quite famous.
guy.
I mean, a lot of
It's
people
my guy. Is he a flat
refer
earther?
to it.
Is it some established term used in the photography industry?
What
What, Mick
the Lake
West
Pontchartrain
Compressed
Bridge?
perspective.
or Soundly?
Compressed perspective. Is that some
No,
established term
we're,
used?
we're
across
trying
the-
to establish now, right, the facts of whether. Do you know who Mick West is?
I'm wondering if I should Google this or if this is something that.
So
is flat
Mick
earther.
West was describing the photographic technique that Soundly used when he was taking his pictures of, I think specifically the pylons across Lake Pontchartrain. You might have seen them. We might be able to find some stuff for you to have a look at. Is it worth us doing that, Funk, or have you got to go? Or
I asked you guys a question.
yeah, you keep saying you're gonna have to go. So I mean, I can explain it to you. Do you want me to explain it to you, or have you only got a little bit
Because
of time?
It's not a standardized term within the industry, I think, so I cannot find anything on it. Probably have to
Well,
ask
that's
that
why.
better.
That's why we're asking you if you know who Mick West is, because you obviously only subscribe to certain people giving you information. Now, I'm asking you, do you know who Mick West is?
Is he a photograph expert? No, I haven't heard.
Mick West is the top conspiracy debunker. Right, he's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on all of these fancy things. He's like one of the highest named people that you have on your side, and he debunks conspiracies for a living.
I'm surprised
heard
Funk's
about
never
him.
heard of it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised you've never heard of him. So I'm establishing this so you know that he is one of your people on your side. Like, not just flat earth debunker. This guy debunks everything,
Everything.
right? So he is obviously one of your best
Debunkers.
debunkers, right? So we're just establishing now, right? Because you don't know what perspective compression is. That we
And
want,
you've never heard of Mick West.
yeah. But so would you accept these? Because you might have seen these pictures. I'll put in the debate discussion here. You've got the pool cue and the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, right? And a warped pool cue, but it's not warped because it's just not warped. I asked him if it was warped, and he said no, it's not warped. He used that bent pool cue to show how perspective compression magnifies a slight curve, right? So it's a photographic technique that Soundly uses when he takes his pictures.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it's easier to see the curve if you're watching alongside, zooming in on it, than to
Yes.
watching it from above.
So we know what perspective compression is now then, right?
Yeah, but the I think what he's trying to explain here is if there weren't any curve, then you wouldn't see it in either image.
All right. So are you trying to tell Mick West what he's trying to say, or have
No, but
you now had a word with Mick West?
Well, if you assume I can just the image you posted, the bottom left one, for example, if that is curving slightly downwards, it's impossible to see from that angle.
Here you go. Look, I took the photo of my pool cue, which I slightly bent under its own weight. So he manufactured a curve in the pool cue. The intent was to show how perspective compression magnifies a slight curve. The photo of the electrical towers was taken by Soundly.
If there is a slight
So
curve, and
have you heard of Soundly?
then that's what you'll see. If there is a slight curve, you'll magnify the curve which is there.
Funk.
If there is no curve,
Have you heard of Soundly?
no.
You've never. Oh wow! So how long have you been in this discussion, this debate arena? A year, and you've never heard of Slice Barcane, Mick West, Soundly.
Slice Arcane sounded. That was actually you mentioning him last time. I think that's why I remember that name. But this.
So you've never heard of anybody? Who do you get? Who's your main source of information?
I don't care. To be
You
honest.
don't care.
Bev.
You don't care about who your best source of information is, or you don't care about information. You just make it up.
I don't care about individual persons saying something on Twitter or whatever.
Okay, so where do you get your information from then, please?
I get it from many sources, all over the place.
Mm-hmm. But you don't care about the individual sources. Enough to cite anybody or say anything.
Not random.
Have you ever seen Soundly's picture? Have you ever seen Soundly's picture?
Which I've never heard about.
Have you ever seen Soundly's picture?
I could have seen it, but I haven't heard that name yet before.
Wow, he'd be upset to hear that.
Mm.
But in this pool...
so you never use any pictures as proof of anything?
Like you're hearing your own voice.
I'm just trying to establish what you using now to counter the information we're giving you.
Trying to talk about the image you posted.
No, we were just establishing that perspective compression is a function of distance. I mean, I was just telling you what Mick West said about perspective compression. Now, they may not be the same thing, but...
I've been talking for 10 minutes now. Can I please...
Yes, I'm just pointing out, though, that the major point here is to understand that
Yes,
Mick
yes,
West
fine.
doesn't mention distance or a function of distance, whereas we do. We just did. Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
But in this image, he posted the pool cue. He bent the pool cue slightly, and it's impossible to see that it's bent from that angle. But it is actually slightly bent. And
Yeah,
even though you
yeah.
see the bend, the perspective compression doesn't create the bend,
Yeah.
right? If
Okay.
there is no bend, you won't see it anyway.
See how far that
You
bend
understand what I'm
goes?
saying there?
See how far the bend goes down that pill cue? Right from the
Yeah,
tip all the way down to the butt. Now, do
Yeah.
you think he can manufacture that curve all the way down to the butt end by just bending the tip a little bit? Or do you think in what he's doing there is some sort of photographic technique where he, like he says, how perspective compression magnifies a slight curve? It's like it's made that little slight curve at the tip go all
but
the
there-
way down to the butt end of that
But
pill
the-
cue.
If the pool cue was straight, you would see it as straight. That's the point.
I don't know.
If it's curved, you see it as curved.
Has he put a
It's
picture of that at the
curved.
side to show?
No, he didn't do that.
So do we know that that is the case, or are you just imagining that?
I have taken pictures of things that are straight, and they look straight when they are straight.
Okay.
Nothing bends just because of perspective.
So when it's straight with no bends. That's like a hard and
Straight
fast
lines,
rule, is it?
Straight lines are straight lines.
Can you not just change your geometry like that? Click.
I'm not
Oof,
talking
I've
about
changed my
geometry
geometry. No.
I'm just talking about what
Oh.
you're seeing.
Yeah, so
Full
straight
cue.
straight lines always stay straight.
Full cue with the pen.
Funk
he
2020.
did just say that. He did
Yeah.
just say that.
Yes, I know it's a trigger word for you guys.
Straight lines are always straight.
Funk
And
2020.
it looks straight. And it looks
Done.
straight
Fine.
in a picture, doesn't it?
What does?
Straight
Yeah,
line
every time.
looks straight in a picture.
Yeah, does
The
that
pool
does
cue
that
is
pill
bent.
cue?
Full-
Pill cue
The
looks
pool
like a
cue-
straight line, does it?
Full cue. No, because it's curved. That's the point of the image.
So it is actually a
Jesus.
curved line. It can't call it a straight line, then, can we?
The pool cue is curved.
Yeah, because he's intentionally put a curve in it.
Yes, he bent
Yeah.
the pool cue.
So when Soundly
Okay.
takes a picture,
if-
right, of a bridge, do you think the curvature might get magnified, or perhaps refraction gets magnified? Which do you think gets magnified
I think you see the
when
curvature.
he
better.
takes a picture
I think you see the curvature of the bridge better from that angle, which
from
he took
that
it
angle?
from. Yes, and that was the point of Mick West's image. I understood it before you even mentioned what the point was, and you seem to not
So
understand. You
there's
seem to be baffled by
definitely
the point.
no refraction to get
Sure.
magnified in that picture that Soundly's been taking, is
There
there?
can be some refraction.
But if there was any refraction, that would get magnified within this photographic technique that Mick West imagines to be called perspective compression.
Everything would be magnified. Yeah, it would be easier to see.
So we could suppose that if the water is horizontal and there is refraction, then all of the curvature.
Why is
that
there
you see is
refraction when the
refraction.
water is horizontal?
There's always refraction.
Yeah.
You live in an atmosphere,
Oh,
remember?
what's causing the refraction?
Atmospherics,
Looking-
remember?
Yes, it's a very simple explanation to something that is a bit more advanced than that. What's causing
Well,
refraction?
you
If-
always blame refraction for everything, so deal with
When
refraction.
did
now.
I have never mentioned refraction in our discussions ever?
Well, when I say you, I'm generalising, as in your camp.
Which camp
Okay.
am I in?
He's
No,
not.
the
He's
rest
not in any
world,
case
yeah.
freestyling it, aren't you,
Oh,
Funk?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't
Am
know
I
anyone.
in the rest of
You
the
don't
world?
know anyone. You've never done anything. You're just on
Anything.
your own freestyling this shit.
Which camp am I in?
And then Kosho comes in and screws him right up.
Which camp am I in?
Oh, you believe in the sphere, don't you?
Yeah.
You believe you
You're
live
definitely a
on a sphere,
globe
rotating
defender.
monkey ball.
Based on evidence and observations, yeah.
Yeah, you are defending the globe. So that camp.
It doesn't have to I don't have to defend it. It's objectively shown that way. I don't care.
It's your belief
That's the problem. I don't
system.
care. This is the problem. I don't care
It's a
if the Earth.
dogmatic belief system.
This is the problem. I don't
It's
care
not a
if the
problem.
Earth is.
It's not
Bev,
it's your
It's
can
problem.
I
it's not a
speak
problem.
without
I mean,
being vocal?
don't think you're
This is
putting us out or anything.
I'm not
We're
finished.
not.
I'm not finished
We're
yet.
all right.
This is the problem.
It's your problem.
The
Do you
problem
have
is
a
that I
problem?
don't care. I'm saying this is the problem.
Yep.
I don't care if the Earth is flat or if it's a globe. It just is what it
It
is.
doesn't
I
sound
have
like
no
much of a
attachment.
problem. I mean, why,
I don't
why,
have any
Why is it a
attachment.
problem?
I don't have any attachment to that the Earth has to be either way. That's why I'm showing you. That's why I'm
It's
showing you
not
a
a
bunch
problem
of
then, is it?
that's why I'm showing you a bunch of hypotheticals on how I would, how it would appear based on our measurements. The problem you are having is that you're explaining that you're saying
hypothetical.
that two plums cannot be parallel because
not
of
a problem.
geometry.
It's not a
It's
problem.
not a
I think,
problem. It's a
Not
fact.
geometry, and
It's
that I don't
geometrically proven.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, that's the problem. You're using math.
We-
Say it,
we
Lee,
use
it's not a
geometry.
problem, mate.
The problem is that you're denying.
Geometry.
So you're full of problems, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's all of these are imagined, perceived problems, right? They're not really
They're all
there.
coming. They're all coming from him as well.
Yeah. Telling us
Well,
his
I guess
problems.
you guys.
he's
Agony
saying
aunt.
our problem is, but he's the one that's got all
Yeah.
the problems.
Come and sit down on the couch, Funk. Come and tell us your problems.
I never said I had a problem. I said that's your problem.
No, because you unloaded them all on us.
That you guys are unable to think about being open-minded about different types of possibilities.
Bullshit.
It's not bullshit. That's completely true. And you are proving it by this other day. You refused to draw something on a whiteboard. It's pretty explanatory. But
Wow, you're holding that still. Was that bad? I didn't.
It
I
will-
wouldn't draw. You do, is that when you wanted me to draw a cock and balls all over me board? And I said no, Funk.
Oh.
I'm not doing that.
I was asking you to draw two theodolites on the whiteboard, and you refused to do that. It's pretty strange to me, I would say. But I guess it's probably some kind of explanation as to what's going on.
Is it a problem?
What's an explanation to what?
That you're having problems with accepting these kind of things for some strange reason. I don't understand.
Having a problem accepting your bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you think it's bullshit, but when I'm asking you to draw a simple drawing and you're refusing to do that.
I never refused to do it.
Yeah.
They never asked me to do a drawing.
Bev had the whiteboard. I asked him.
I
Told you
never
I'm not
refused to
drawing a
draw
cock and balls all over me board.
I didn't
whiteboard.
ask you to draw a cock and balls. I asked you to draw two theodolites. You have like a brain lock or something like that.
I
You
think
refuse to-
what you were trying to get me to
Is
do
it-
was
is
to
it-
try
is
and
it
draw a
reality?
design that Jeff has
It's-
done, and you were trying to strike me for
Is
copyright
it getting a little
for using
to
his
reality?
drawing, or trying to
Is it
replicate
getting
his
a little
drawing.
bit too close to
Not
reality?
you, Nathan.
Draw it.
Not you, Nathan. Moderator.
Not like you, Nathan.
So, Funk, how do you measure that angle that's top of a really tall step ladder in your diagram.
The angle. Where? What angle?
It's your diagram.
What diagram?
The one that you've been talking about. Do you not remember?
You mean the Moses Tollens image?
Who's Moses Toland? Is he like
Moses
a biblical character?
Moses Tollens image. Is that the one you're talking about?
What Moses Toland? Who's?
What diagram?
What are you talking about? What image are you talking about? Where is it?
He wants to talk about Jeff's drawings again.
I don't know what you're talking about. Domesticated primate.
Oh, you're talking about that one that that's not a Moses Tollins. Read what she's written.
I called it Moses Tollens because it's
You called it Moses.
It's on the
whatever
image.
he is. No, it's not Moses Tollins. Moses. It may as well be Moses Tollins. Moses Trollins. No,
That's
the
fun.
diagram you presented the other night. You know, the one with the angle right up in the air.
I can't find
Do you mean
it.
the one that Kosho posted? I think Kosho posted some images.
Oh yeah, the one that he stitched you up with. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I explained what I meant.
Yeah, but you didn't answer the question I just asked you.
I would have to have the drawing again to understand what you're talking about.
I'll see if I might have saved it.
Did you see the one from Aaron Burrell? Do you agree with that in like principle funk?
What? Tell me what.
Aaron Burrell, it's the one above the one with the ridiculous Modus Tollens thing on it. The picture from Jeff. The yeah, Aaron Burrell.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah, that's actually what I that's actually what I meant by that.
That's what you.
image
That's
when
what
you're
you
saying-
imagine, as well, is it?
That's what you're creating, basically, the shape you're creating.
Yeah. Are you all right
By
with
doing
that quarter mile as well?
What do you mean by quarter mile?
Because he says, think of each piece as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
quarter
yeah.
mile square.
Yeah, if you're doing a quarter mile measurement between each point, then yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I find it kind of ridiculous, and especially since you're not seeing, if you're saying, oh, it's tilted away, and we're asking, okay, then where is it tilting? Is it a specific point, or is it a gradual tilt? And if I would say, well, let's say, okay, it's not a gradual tilt, it's a definite point where it's tilting, then
Yeah,
you
but
would have to find that.
But that Aaron
We never
Burrell
find
says, have you seen how they take a bunch of tiny, little, perfectly flat, square mirrors?
Yes, but doesn't it form to a sphere?
But there would be no tilt, would there, in that flat? Isn't that
Or
like it? That's flat.
if you're measuring,
Like you
between-
what you're saying is you're imagining you're at the join, and then that's why one of them tilts away from the other, right?
It would only be tilted in relation to the ones around it.
yes, every single one will tilt away from you.
Yeah, so that's what you're imagining, that all of these other perfectly flat squares that are around you are all tilting away from your position.
Well, it's not that in reality, because we don't see these squares and these edges, do we? So I would make.
You're quite right. That's definitely not reality. Yep. I'm
Yes,
with you
so
with that one.
that's why we're saying it's curving, and it's not a.
What do you mean?
It's
You're
not
saying it's
square.
curving instead. You're saying that's ridiculous. That's not reality. Just imagine it
not
curving.
reality at all.
I mean, that'll make it much better.
saying it looks like this disco ball is. That's why I asked you.
But
you're
Aaron
putting a
Aaron
spotlight-
Burrell is one of your professional surveyors, right?
Oh, he
I
wouldn't
don't know
that.
who
Is
that
he?
is.
He
He's,
wouldn't know that.
he's a professional
But I
surveyor.
understood.
But you
it's
wouldn't know
strange
that, would you?
Instantly, when one of these guys who is against you guys. When
can-
he
I
does some
can tell
kind of
him.
explanation, I instantly understand what he's trying to explain. It's kind of weird. I don't know how your brain works,
Wow.
but it's completely outside of mine.
Yeah,
It's so
completely
strange.
makes sense to you, does it?
Yes, it actually
The
does.
disco ball.
And I
That's
I
why
don't know.
we do call him the disco ball surveyor, right? I mean, you're completely on board with the disco
Well,
ball
it's
surveyor's
an
technique
analogy
of being
because
able
I
to
don't know.
use a disco
It's
ball to explain.
It's I think it's a what you call it, a insult to you, actually, to be honest, Bev, that he has to seek to these levels to explain something so simple.
Yeah, he
Because
was
I
explaining
understood
it by using a
understood
disco
it,
ball, and
I-
you've just said,
Yeah,
well, that's a bit primitive. Let's just imagine that, but curving.
yeah. Well, I
But
said
you see,
if
the
you're-
reason he said it was like a disco ball with flat squares is because it's horizontal, right? The tools that you use establish a horizontal.
if you have one theodolite,
That's why he said a quarter of a mile.
Come on, man, let me speak.
Horizontal, straight, flat.
Don't get locked in your. Okay,
Go
so
on, imagine
if
away. then.
you're on one of, oh my god, you cannot shut up. Okay, so if you're in one of these, in one of these, what you want to call them, tiny mirrors. If you're in one of these tiny mirrors, and you place the theodolite there, and you're placing a theodolite on the other mirror, and the right next to it, those two will not be angled the same.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, have you ever done anything like that?
No,
Like
I don't
no.
own a disc ball.
Were you here the other day? Were you
Sort
here? Were you here the other day when we were doing the live stream?
You do understand that I
Funk.
haven't. You asked me these questions at least 20 times.
What?
Have
No,
you
no.
done this yourself? Say no every time.
Were you here the other day, Saturday, 2 days ago, when we were doing a test? Have you heard about that, or did
No.
you come before that?
I don't remember.
Did we talk to you about the test that we were going to do?
Maybe that could be. I don't remember.
Don't think we did, but
Okay, so let's have a go. When you survey,
let's just let's do this as a hypothetical.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to be done.
yeah, okay, right. So you get a auto level, and you get a child or your child to set it up, right? Because you're the boss. You can get other children to do things, right? So you get them to set it up and level it up and spike the legs in, do all of that sort of stuff. So they've leveled an auto level. And then when you look through an auto level, right, it establishes a horizontal line of sight, and you see some crosshairs, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
Now, through those crosshairs, let's say we are going to put 3 points in the floor. One at 33 meters, one at 66 meters, and then one at 99 meters, or as close to, like, we're not exact. So as we do that, we're laying these 3 pins in at these points, right? Then we come back to point number 1 at 33 meters away from the theodolite, or the auto level, because it's an auto level. It only does horizontal. It doesn't alter on the vertical at all. It just shows you a crosshair on the horizontal, and you can turn it, but it just shows you the horizontal, right? So at that point, the first point, we've got a screw threaded bar that we can move these screws up and down, and then put the rod on the screw bar at a certain point and move the screws up and down until we get a reading on the rod through the crosshair of the auto level of, say, a meter.
Yes, I follow.
Okay. So we've got that, and then we do that at the 66 meter mark and the 99 meter mark. Yep. Are you with us?
Yes.
So we are looking through this theodolite or this auto level at a horizontal line that reads at 3 different points, 33, 66 and 99 meters. They all read 1 meter. Okay? You still with us? Then we pick up our level and then we move it all the way around to the other side. Right? And then we set it up again and we get it all level and adjust all of the legs and make sure it's stable and everything. And we set the level up and we auto level to get the bubble right. And then it's establishing another horizontal, like looking through them sights. Then we get our measure stick and we put it on those 3 points again and look at the number that it reads. What would you imagine that we would get if we were to look back through the sights?
Moving it to the opposite side. That's what you did.
Yes,
right?
we moved the auto level to the other side of this row of...
Well, did you align when you put up these sticks in the ground? You made a mark at 1 meter or something.
Yeah, we adjusted the nuts and bolts and the things to put a mark on that thing that you could rest the rod on that showed 1 meter. Yes. On the first side. But then we've moved it back and we've moved the auto level to the other side now and set that up. And now we're going to look back and put the measuring rod on all of these points. Now, what would you imagine you would see?
I think you will see exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Because you already adjusted the pins.
A difference in height, though, of the auto level, right? The position of the auto level might be different. Yeah, you got to account for that. We're never going to level it at 1 meter height, are we? So
you mean by 1 meter?
It will be at a different height, right? The auto level, when we establish it at its second position, it will be at a different height than it was at the beginning, right? You understand that? You're with us.
I think I follow you. So what you're saying, when you're saying the auto level, you're saying that the auto level is 1 meter above where you are at that moment, right?
No, we adjusted the points. So when we put the measuring rod on the point at 33, 66 and 99, that when you look through the auto level, it all established 1 meter. You understand that?
I think I do. But doesn't that mean that the level would also have to be 1 meter height?
No, because we adjusted.
How does that work?
You put like a big screw thread into the ground. You bang it into the ground at 33 meters, at 66 meters, and 99 meters. Then you just look through the level, right? And you say, we want to make it 1 meter when we look through the sight. So we adjust the screw threads on the bar up or down, that when we put the measuring rod on that particular bit, it reads 1 meter. I mean, it's a practical thing, and I can understand you not knowing what's happening or how somebody would do this, because it seems like you've never done anything.
I've never done
You can,
surveying.
yeah, you call in a surveyor if you want. Find one of your mates, the ones that you were speaking for
I
the other
actually
day.
used the laser level before though.
You have used the laser level.
Yeah, but I don't
Oh,
know.
like one of those little ones in the house. You think that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's not.
It's actually, it cost a little bit. I borrowed it from my
Yeah, but that's
father-in-law.
not going to talk the distances we're talking about.
No, I agree with that. It's just meant to have a straight line
Horizontal.
inside.
Yeah, horizontal it establishes, doesn't it? And a vertical.
I'm just gonna draw a drawing to see if I understand
Ooh,
what you mean.
nice.
You're
Right.
not going to rely on Coach Show today, no?
We might be able to use this one. DP, take note. We might be able to use this for a promo for our test. Because does it, like what we're talking about, Funk, does it sound like possible? Doable.
Guess so.
Yeah.
Let me just post this.
Do you reckon children could do it? Do you reckon children should do it? Does it sound like a fun
know what
thing
the
to
point
do
is.
with your kids?
I
Let's go
don't
out
know.
and measure
Depends
some points.
what the point is, but
That's practical experience of a horizontal level line.
Yeah. Well, and a bit of surveying skills. I mean, what's up with that? Teaching. There's nothing wrong with teaching children surveying. Is there? Funk? Oh,
as long as you're teaching them the right thing, I guess it's no problem.
okay. So does it sound like we've taught you anything in this bit about how we're doing it? Welcome, Lael. Your Funk didn't call you in, did he? I hope not. Don't get involved, Lael.
Calm down. It's not some big conspiracy every time somebody comes in here.
Yep, that's it. 1 meter, 1 minute. It's not very horizontal. Like you can see
Yeah,
that's
so
all jaggedy, right? It's all going up, definitely going up. And that
This is
looks
the
like
thing.
you've got some sort of really old camera system there. But
Forget about that. But that's what you meant, right?
yeah, 1 meter. See, but like you can see, there's a gap,
Yeah.
right? So when I was saying 3 points to read 1 meter, I meant exactly that. Not like to be short or missing or be at a funny angle and 1 meter. They're
when
all
you're
just
saying
read 1 meter.
When you're saying 1 meter, why do you mean? In my head,
Because
would-
it would seem like a really easy number for everybody to establish. DP, right? Does that sound like a good idea? Just establishing
1 meter.
1 meter, like make them all read 1 meter.
It's nice.
It
round
could have
number,
been
isn't it?
any number, right? We just picked 1 meter because
You could have gone for 3.4 feet,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
that would have been Americanism.
yeah,
So,
or 1,162
Oh,
millimeters. I mean, we could have
but to be able to make this work, this theodolite has to be 1 meter.
no.
The
No,
center
no,
point.
no. It has to at least be 1 meter above the mark that we're trying to do because we are going to establish a mark of 1 meter. Right?
Okay, so let me draw another drawing.
Yeah, okay. This is time. You put a straight line, just imagine, horizontal, straight line, and then do wibbly wobbly ground if you want in between. But then do 3 points and then mark the same distance down and call it 1 meter and then put like a little nut and bolt system at the bottom
Just
of it.
copy paste it. But if the theodolite is higher than these lines,
Oh, come
You
on,
understand what I mean?
dude.
that's what you're saying.
You can definitely tell you've never done any surveying. Because
What are
this,
you
this is
meaning?
ridiculous. Like, this is childlike, right, Funk?
It is childlike. I
It
did
is,
it
yeah.
on purpose because I didn't want to spend 10 minutes on the drawing. I just copy pasted and moved the theodolite. If that theodolite is higher than these markings, right?
1 meter it reads. Whenever you look through the eyepiece at each one of these 3 marks,
above.
it reads 1 meter on the
What?
measuring stick.
Yeah, but above what?
It just reads 1 meter. I mean, it's not it's not difficult.
I know you're saying that, but I'm just asking you above what?
Above
it's
what?
not-
What are you talking about? Above what? Do you know
It's a 1
what an
meter
auto
each.
level does?
I think I know what it do.
Right,
But
okay, so what by you looking
Right.
and seeing the measuring stick at 1 meter, that means that from the horizontal line of sight of each one of those marks, 1 meter below it, vertically, there is a nut system to stop it from going any further. So the level of the nut that the thing is standing on at 33, 66 and 99 is 1 meter below the horizontal line established by the auto level.
the point you're establishing is the 1 meter below the horizontal line.
Yeah, that's what the surveying tools do.
Yeah, okay, now I understand.
Now
what
we're
you-
with it, right? Now we'll
I was-
we'll
I
make a
was-
surveyor out of you in
He's
no
just
time.
learned how
Yeah.
surveying tools work.
Yeah.
Well done,
Yeah,
Frank. Well done.
I understood that actually in
Okay.
the first place, but
Okay,
it
so-
didn't
Maybe
sound
right,
that
okay,
was
so-
quite obvious.
Yeah.
No, without going was actually something I was confused about because it sounded to me like you can do that.
Mhm.
If you were to lift the other light up 2 meters, then you would have to use a 2-meter stick to establish the same point.
Why would you put the theodolite 2 meters above you? It's preferable if it's at your eye level, right? That's where
Yes,
you
it
set.
is.
That's where you set the auto level up. At least that's
So-
what I told my son to. I would
It's just-
advise him not to go 2 meters high, specifically because the legs of the tripod that it's on aren't that high. Right,
Yes,
so
I
it'd
agree
have
with
to
that.
be.
But
And then we
also-
go,
Little hop-
how the hell are you going to look through that? You need some ladders. Take some
good
step
name.
ladders with you.
That wasn't the point, whether if it was practical or not. It was just to add on to the explanation. So I'm sure what you mean.
There's some really irrelevant information. So you could, like,
I
we'll go
just
along with
explain
that. I will tell my son next time not to put it 2 meters
2
up in the
meters.
high.
You can just go with it and
Yeah.
just say yes, but it's unpractical, and then it's fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would say that. Yeah,
But it's
definitely.
unpractical.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's,
agree.
it's mainly unpractical because the legs of the tripod aren't that long.
But in
But
this,
I mean, like, let's just forget about that, right? At least
In this
we've established now that you've said don't put it 2 meters up in the air. Okay, so we've set it up and we've got these nuts 1 meter below the level line, right? The horizontal line established by the auto level. We pick it up, the auto level, and we move it to the other side of the line and set it up, obviously at eye level.
Not too mean.
Yeah, not 2 meters. I mean, he did that all of his own accord, right? So he must have already known that you would have advised him to do that.
so
And then
I
we're
understand
looking
what you mean.
back and we are going to put the measuring stick on these nuts. Now, what do you
you're gonna
imagine?
it's going to see exactly the same thing. Straight line. It's going
Okay,
to be like that.
right. So that is, we're going to use Euclidean geometry. I mean, I know you don't think much of it, but we're going to use that and proposition 11 from within Euclidean geometry in the proofs, right, to show that a straight line, 2 straight lines can't share a common segment, right? And also definition 35 about parallel lines not converging. So although those 2 theodolite or the auto levels will have been established at a different height right, the two lines that you've just said are equal, right? They would be classed as parallel, wouldn't they? So the horizontal planes established by those levels. Now you could do that system. I mean, like 3's a bit much, right? You'd only normally use one measuring rod, because the ones in between aren't really needed, are they? It's just a straight line, right? And you could chain those straight lines together to establish a different horizontal, we'll call it elevation, right, at the other end. Would you agree to that, Funk?
You mean elevation in relationship to the first point, you mean?
Yeah. A different
Yes.
horizontal elevation
Yeah.
at one end, depending, doesn't really matter how far you go, does it? But you would have a horizontal elevation, wouldn't you, at the other end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how would you know the first elevation in the first place?
You'd get an established benchmark, wouldn't you?
What would you use then?
What do you mean, what would I use for
You've
the
got
established?
light and some measuring sticks there. Why can't you use those?
I mean, you're gonna. Well, sure, you can use that as a base point.
Yeah, that's
So
That's
your
fine.
benchmark.
question
That's what it is.
My question was, well, I guess my question was if you're gonna establish a reference point in relation to sea level, for example.
Why would we need to do that?
Just elevation,
Um,
right?
it's
A
actually
horizontal
not-
elevation change. That's what
In
all
this
we're doing, right?
In this application, it's not necessary now.
Exactly. So, what was the point of the question?
I was just curious. I guess it's more for like like if you're gonna do some cartography or something like that.
All we're
Along
doing
with-
is forming a horizontal plane. That is all.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, like you say, you don't want to come in here and talk about it, but I mean, it's a hot topic, right? It really challenges you at the minute, doesn't it, Funk? You love it, really. Come on, admit it.
You love it.
Oh, he's got to go. Oh,
Does he?
well,
he
come
stop-
back any time, right? I mean, because I
Did he
think we
stop
were
talking?
really getting somewhere. He's put it in the chat.
Quickly. I think the pennies might have just dropped with him.
The surveying, right? That straight line one is it's a killer, right? It's a bit of a problem. That's where you got to start, though. You start at geometry. You start with a point, which is nothing. We can't really establish much there. Straight line. There you go. Step 1. Establish straight line.
And then from that straight line,
Well,
another one. Oh, they're on the same
Yeah.
plane.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. One straight line and another straight line. Both parallel. I mean, if we wanted to, and we could have set the level up at the 1 meter height. I mean, if you wanted to be anal about it, then you could show that it would be the shared straight line segment, right?
Well, you can do that using the laser level. Just pin a laser line down it, and then that is your shared straight line segment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's when you move it, right? In order to extend it, to move it along. I mean, this method shows it is definitely a shared straight line. I mean, but because they're parallel. Yeah, you know what the ballers will be like. Very anal. But I mean, if you was to spend your time trying to set the level up to 1 meter, and then you read all of them back again at 1 meter, and that would necessarily be the same straight line segment, right?